Hi guys. Last time we deployed our website on our local machine using the Docker desktop. This time we'll be deploying our website on a remote server on Amazon EC2 instance. And the servers we'll be using, like we did in the last video, is we'll be using HTTPD and NGINX web servers. We'll be hosting two websites. We'll be hosting the a counter app and a dictionary app. And both of them are on my GitHub. I will present the link in the description below. All right, let's begin. We'll have to create our instance. This shouldn't take time. All right, what should we call it? Let's call it Docker. Let's go down. There's nothing to do literally besides ticking this down. That's all. Launch your instance. Oh, key pair name. Let's pick Docker. All right. I picked Docker because I already had a Docker key pair, right? For you can click the create a new key pair over there and download it into your system and save the key pair in the folder that you will use as your working directory. The key pair has been downloaded. Now the next thing to do, as our Docker is our instance is initializing, let's go set up our, what's it called now? All right. So if you look at the present working directory, I am in my desktop DevOps AWS Docker. And I saved my key pair here. That's why I navigated into this directory. So if I do ls, you will see my key pair, my docker.pem. So whichever directory you're going to use, make sure your key pair is there. We've done the first part, which is to set up EC2 instance. Now the next part is to connect to the EC2 instance. The first thing you want to do is to chmod 0400 docker.pm. Yeah, so you're giving the what's it called, the key pair the permission, or you're authorizing it to be used in this directory. The second thing you want to do is to SSH into your instance. Then you get your, what's it called? EC2 user. You get your IP address. So let's get our IP address. That's it. Then you come here, paste it. Yes. Why am I being denied permission? Alright, I think I found my error. When I did chmod, right? Let's go back. I think I used the capital letter D instead of the small letter. If you go back up here, our docker.pem is small letter D. And the other error I may have made is, if you go back up, where is that? A minute, guys. That's a 04,000. It should be 0400. So let's go down and let's SSH again using the small letter D instead of the capital letter D. Now everything works. All right. Good. So now that we have SSH into our instance, the next thing you want to do is to update the instance. Sudo yum update -y complete. The next thing you also want to do is to install Docker. Sudo yum install Docker and Git. So we will use GitHub. So let's just install Docker and install Git. Both of them at the same time. Okay. I hope we can see the commands clearly, because sometimes this thing misbehaves. So let me minimize it a little bit. All right, so these are the last commands I've used: sudo yum install Docker and Git, sudo yum update -y. Right, just in case when this video finally comes out and the lower part of it is cut out. All right, we've done that. The next thing we want to do is to clone our project from the Git repository. I already have my counter app. You saw it earlier on, but if I didn't have it, I would run this code: git clone this. So if you want to have the counter app as well, run this code and press enter, and then you will have it in your current working directory. Otherwise, you can have the dictionary app from my GitHub as well. Yeah, so if I ls, I have the dictionary app. Oh, I also need the counter app. I don't have it in this EC2 instance. I only have it in my desktop. So counter app ls, as you can see, I have counter app and dictionary app both in my EC2 instance now. The next thing I would do is to start my Docker service. So sudo service docker start. All right. Now that I've started my Docker service, the next thing to do is to enable Docker to start on system reboot. So the code for that is this: sudo docker on. And the next thing to do is to add my EC2 user to the Docker group so that I don't have to keep using sudo. All right. Now that I've done that, next thing to do is to exit and come back in so that the addition to the group can take effect. Let me clear the screen. Now I don't have to keep using sudo. The next thing to do is to pull my HTTPD and my NGINX images. Let's see, docker pull HTTPD NGINX. Okay, I can only pull one at a time. So pulling NGINX now. So when I go check my Docker images, I see I have two images. One is NGINX and one is HTTPD. The best way to pull these images is to use where is it? A minute, please. Is to use what's it called? HTTPD column like 2.4 or 2.5, because the whole essence of using Docker is to have a particular version of your application. Just not putting a version at the end of your image makes Docker, it takes away its advantages for you. So you have to use those versions so that when HTTPD updates its version, everything will run properly because you use a particular version. I hope you get that. I think it's time to run the Docker container, right? Let's see. So here we go. All right, so we have our name, HTTPD counter. The volume is attaching the counter in the current working directory to the HTTPD container that we're about to create, and then it will be a detached container so that we can keep typing on this particular terminal. We are running on EC2 instance, so let me copy instead and paste this S, remove it, and then we have our counter app. That's our counter app, right? That counts. Basically, I use this app for my workout. Save. At the end of the day, when I get to about 50 reps, that's all. Right, that's our counter app. We have our counter app running on our HTTPD server. Now, the next thing we want to do is to have our dictionary app running on our NGINX server. So how do we do that? You want to stop and delete all containers. That stops and deletes. That stops the containers. Now it's time to delete. Now that's done. Now, if I had opened my EC2 instance to receive network or connection from other ports besides port 80, I wouldn't have to delete this NGINX container. I would have just created another container and give it another port, 8080 thereabout, and then we'll have two containers presenting two different websites. But when I was creating my EC2 instance, I only allowed connection from port 80, which is why I'm deleting the NGINX container before I deploy my which is why I'm deleting the HTTPD container before I deploy my NGINX container. So to deploy our NGINX, you docker run 8080. I already explained all of this, but what apps do we even have? Before we run this, let's see what apps we have. I have downloaded more apps. So we have the counter app, we have the dictionary app. So let's do the portfolio. All right. So all we have to do is change the counter. So current working directory counter, that's not what we're doing. We're doing the portfolio. Let's just change the name to portfolio. Right. Notice it's in 80. This was our counter app. Let me minimize. This is our counter app. Right. If we refresh now, we have the portfolio app, right? Yeah, so basically we've used NGINX to deploy the portfolio website, and we've used HTTPD to deploy the, what's it called now, the counter app. I hope you understand. In subsequent videos, I will make sure I have more than one port available on my EC2 instance, so that I wouldn't have to delete one instance to one container to create another container just because I have one port 80. All right, guys, take care.